So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bottom Line Show. I am Mihran Kalaydjian. Tonight's program is focused on one thing, the future of Los Angeles City Council and District 9. With that, let's begin the bottom line and hear directly from the candidates seeking to represent District 9. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's begin with our candidate opening a statement, and it's 2 minutes per candidate. And let's start with Jorge.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for hosting this City Watch. I appreciate it. My name is Jorge Nuño. I was born and raised here in South Central Los Angeles. This is my home. For over 20 years, I've been a small business owner, a union employer, a father raising 2 young boys, and a community builder right here in District 9. I didn't come into this work through politics. I came through this through necessity. I've built jobs locally. I've helped small businesses grow. I've created youth programs, a workforce pipeline, in a community space here in the big house. It's not theory to me, it's always been in practice. If you drive down Figueroa, Avalon, Main, Broadway, the conditions are almost criminal. I'm running to hold the city accountable, not to defend it. I'm running because South LA deserves a leadership that knows how to move resources, cut through bureaucracy, and deliver results. Clean streets, real public safety, affordable housing, and local jobs. My approach is different, and I preach this all the time. Don't move, improve. Invest here, hire here. And I'm going to say it again, keep our community clean, safe, and walkable. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana.
Hi, good evening. My name's Adriana Cabrera. To share a little bit about myself, I was raised in South Central. Growing up in the side of town was tough. Like many children in our district, at age 12, when other children were playing outside, I was working at the swap meet selling shoes to help my parents survive. Back in the days, we didn't have economic opportunities. Our schools looked like prison. So we decided to organize our neighbors and brought college centers to our local high schools. We brought a Dream Research Center at LA Trinity College. Being a first-generation college graduate, being raised with parents who didn't have access to very basic rights, gave me a strong understanding of the need to show up in spaces where decisions are made. I organized with my community for 18 years. I worked with the local congresswoman, senator, state assembly member. I worked for 4 years with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, where I trained over 300 board members on how to navigate City Hall. I also served in my local neighborhood council for 6 years, and I am running to represent the community that raised me. To create policies, budgets, and infrastructure that honors the needs of the residents who live here, not self-interest. We need transparency in budgeting expenditures because for a really long time, people in our community are stuck surviving, not thriving, and we will shift that together in June. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Mihran. My name is Jose Ugarte. I was born in Oaxaca, Mexico. My parents brought me here to Los Angeles when I was 4 years old. When I was 8 years old, I marched against Pete Wilson, marched against Prop 187. I realized that I was undocumented. I was undocumented for the first 17 years of my life until I got my citizenship when I was in college. I'm living the American dream. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a homeowner, raising my family here in the district. And I'm trying to bring my experience. My first job out of college was working for the LA Federation of Labor, where we passed the highest wages in the city of LA to $15 an hour. Then I got a job in Wisconsin, working to recall Scott Walker, who was trying to destroy our right to work states, trying to make right to work states, trying to destroy our unions, immigrant rights, civil rights in Wisconsin. I was out there for a year. Then I came back to LA to work on different nonprofits in the district. My first real job is working for State Assemblyman Anthony Rendon. I was his field rep in 2012. We helped pass legislation. We passed legislation to ban lead ammunition in the state of California. I know the European Union just did that about 3 months ago, but we in California, we set the tone. What that did is that made it harder for people to buy weapons and buy guns and bullets. Also saved the California condor from extinction right here in California. We passed the biggest water bond known to the state of California, $8 billion that brought clean water to South LA. Then I got a job working for my local councilman, Curran Price, in 2013. We opened 5 new parks in the first 5 years. We brought more affordable housing in the entire city of LA, 15 districts. And I'm trying to continue the work that I've done. I also helped pass minimum wage for tourism workers, helped pass minimum wage for food and grocery workers. During the pandemic, we passed hero pay when people had to go to work to make ends meet. People that worked at grocery stores, if we closed grocery stores down, people would have died. They wouldn't have anything to buy food. So we gave them an extra $5 hero pay for staying on those jobs, making sure that we had a place to shop. We banned the box, which allowed formerly incarcerated people to apply for jobs. And see that in my district, it's something really important that we did. We were the epitome of the state of California. Now the state of California passed it a few years later, but we started here in LA. We helped bring $3 billion in center renovation. We brought a $250 million to LAFC Stadium. We brought a $3 billion Lucas Museum. But the most important thing of our district, we kept our district affordable. If you look on the Zillow, if you look at the cheapest home to buy in the city of LA, it's in our district. The cheapest apartment to rent, it's in our district. We've done a good job to make sure that our district was developed, but developed honorably, making sure nobody's being displaced. So I want to continue that work. Thank you again, Mihran, for hosting us. Thank you, City Watch.
Thank you. Elmar.
Hello. I'm excited to be here. My name is Elmer Roldan, and I'm running to represent the district that raised me. This is also where I raised my 2 sons. I entered this race committed to making our city deliver better services, cleaning up our streets, improving safety, and plant more trees so that we can improve the quality of air. I'm laser focused on building housing that is affordable in my district, attracting better paying jobs, especially for young people, and supporting local businesses. As the executive director of Communities and Schools of Los Angeles, I see firsthand the needs that students and families have. In Los Angeles, we provide students with social, emotional, and academic support to help them graduate college and career ready. But since the pandemic, we've had to donate $1 million directly to families to help them pay for rent, food, and bills. My professional work has included United Way of Greater Los Angeles, and I've worked at LA Unified both for a school board president as well as a superintendent, as well as various social justice nonprofits. The key fights that I've been a part of and very proud to have led include access to universal college prep for all students in LA Unified, funding and building to repair schools and attract more campuses to Los Angeles, decriminalizing especially young Black boys in our schools, and fighting for equitable funding to ensure that our teachers and our school staff have the funding that they need in order to properly educate children. I myself grew up in poverty. My mother has cleaned houses her entire life. My stepfather was a hotel janitor until he retired. I was born in Guatemala and grew up undocumented, so I consider myself very fortunate to have citizenship now because I know the fear that our families are facing with this current administration. I'm a proud graduate of LA Unified and Cal State Dominguez Hills. And it is an honor to be here today and engaging in this conversation. Thank you, Mihran, and thank you, City Watch.
Thank you. Christopher.
Yes. Good evening, and thank you, City Watch, for hosting this forum, and to everybody who's taking the time out to engage in the future of Los Angeles. My name is Chris Martin, and I'm running for Los Angeles City Council in District 9 because this is the district that raised me, and because I believe it deserves leadership that comes directly from the community and not just speaks about it. And it's not just transplanted in, but it's actually from the community. I grew up in what's called the east side of South Central Los Angeles, raised by a single mother, navigating the same challenges that many families in the district still face to this day. I've seen housing instability, under-resourced schools, over-policing, and too few pathways to opportunity. And as a young person, I found some support and stability at community institutions like a place called Home off of 29th and Central Avenue, which helped shape who I am and showed me what real investment in people looks like. I went on to become a civil rights attorney, fighting for working people, fighting for victims of police brutality, and fighting for families who are too often ignored by systems that are supposed to serve them. So I know what it means to take on large institutions and win. I'm talking about LAPD. I'm talking about LASD. I've made people from South Central Los Angeles in District 9 rich by standing up to those who oppress them. And I also organized one of the largest pro bono defense efforts in California history. I organized a team of over 700 lawyers to defend 900 protesters during the George Floyd protests of 2020 and was able to negotiate with the city attorney's office to get the vast majority of those charges dropped and dismissed. And I also did a lot of lawyering for my Latino brothers and sisters, standing up for immigrants in children's court, representing parents who are trying to get their kids back or keep their families together at the DCFS involvement. Every day I see how City Hall decisions or the lack of them directly affect whether people can afford to stay in their homes, feel safe in their neighborhoods, and believe that government actually looks out for them. And I believe that District 9 is at a crossroads. We are facing a housing crisis, public safety challenges, and a deep distrust in our institutions. And what we need right now is accountable, ethical leadership that is rooted in community, transparent in decision-making, and focused on real outcomes. I am running to bring homegrown leadership that listens, shows up, and that understands that these issues are not just from reports, but from lived experience. So I'm Chris Martin, and that's what I'm all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Estorado.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's always enlightening to listen to everybody and learn new things from everybody. My name is Estuardo Mazariegos. I'm a candidate for CD9 here in South Central LA. I was born in Guatemala as well. I was born at the height of a civil war and a genocide. I moved here. My parents were leaders of community as well in Guatemala. I come from a community called La Limonada, which is a unplanned community. A lot of folks call it the largest slum in Central America. And I came here in 1988 when my dad was under threat for his leadership in Guatemala. So my mom ended up sending me and myself up through Mexico, crossed the border, etc., and landed here in Los Angeles, 1988. The first example of race class in the United States that I vividly remember was the 1992 Los Angeles Rodney King uprisings. It was the backdrop. I've been organizing since I was a little kid. I didn't have enough money to join a sports leagues. I didn't have enough money to go to the park and have the uniform, but we had bats and we had cardboard and we organized ourselves into block by block leadership teams to create sports leagues to be able to take care of ourselves during the summer or play basketball at the park all summer long. Always organizing, always coming together with my people. In 1994, the same thing. Prop 187. I would wake up as a 9-year-old boy, and Pete Wilson would point me in my face and say, "Hey, you undocumented boy do not have the right to dignity. You don't have the right to healthcare. You don't have the right to education." Same thing as Jose. My parents, who were janitors and parts of USWW, Justice for Janitors at the time, organized, and we hit the streets and we beat collectively together. A lot of folks here share the same story of fighting for our dignity, fighting for our rights, and making sure that our voices would not be oppressed and held back in this country, because we came here to be a part of the fabric of democracy and to have human dignity. And that's why we fought for our human dignity in that moment. Move on. As a young community organizer in my early 20s, I was able to really partake in a lot of the foreclosure crisis that was occurring in South Central Los Angeles. I remember every block in our neighborhood had foreclosures, and the city was doing business with a lot of those places, a lot of those institutions like Wells Fargo that were foreclosing illegally on a lot of people in our community. So one of the first projects that I did was hold those banks accountable, and we created this thing called the Foreclosure Registry Ordinance. So essentially, it created a place where all that data of people that were getting foreclosed on was being collected by the city. And then what would occur, unfortunately, the city was losing a ton of property taxes because nobody was paying on those. So, and on top of that, the city would have to come out and take care of those properties. So we would have a double negative impact in our city. We would lose property tax because of the foreclosures, and then secondly, the city was taking on addressing a lot of those foreclosures and cleaning them up and maintaining them safe. So we ended up holding the banks accountable by putting a the city take accountability on the banks that they were doing business with, that were foreclosing on our people at the same time, and we actually forced the city of Los Angeles to reconsider its contract with Wells Fargo. So now that leads into some of the work that I'm doing now in the city of LA, which is demanding that the city start a public bank here, so that way we could use our money in a way that's way more efficient, that we could open up the capital that we collectively hold as a city and ensure that it gets redistributed in our community. Additionally, I've also been a big part of making sure that tenants in the city of LA have lower rent. Just last year, we were able to reformulate the LARSO formula with the community organization that I work for, ACE, the Alliance of California's Community Empowerment, along with labor leaders, along with other city council members. And I'm really proud of that because we were able to lower the rent for over 600,000 units of rental units here in the city of LA that would impact millions of people. And I was a big proponent as well, out on the streets, demanding that workers in the tourism industry, first person that I signed on as a community leader with my community organization onto TWR. I was there at the first press conference. I was making sure that, our people defended it both on the streets when they were trying to move against it. And I made sure that our folks were defended on that. And I'm really proud of this one. I was able to get one of the largest anti-displacement measures in the history of the city through the RPO, the Resident Protection Ordinance, that increased the money that people got, the relocation fee from $20,000 to $100,000 for extremely low income with a right to return, and ensuring that people get just the basic necessities that they need when they move out. So some of the work that I've done to really improve the lives of working people in South Central LA.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for sharing about your background, why you are running. Now we are going to move to the questions, and each question is 2 minutes per each candidate. My first question is going to be about public safety and emergency response. District 9 residents continue to report the slow emergency response times and uneven public safety outcomes. What specific changes would you implement in your first year to improve response time and community safety, and how would you measure success? So let's go with Jose.
Thank you, Mihran. Public safety is what I'm running on. I have a 2-year-old daughter. I got to make sure that she grows up in a safe environment where I can take her to the local park and take her to the local grocery store, and I feel that she's safe. And I said time and time again, I'm afraid to take my daughter to some parks in my district. I was taking her to a park as soon as it gets dark. I could take her right back home, and that's not right. That's not right for anybody. And if I, as a future council member, can't take my daughter to a local park, then I don't expect anybody else to. I started a CSP program in one of my parks, South Park, which is one of the biggest park we have in our district, but the most underutilized park. From 2013 when we started office. We revitalized that park. We brought in new soccer fields, baseball courts, basketball courts, new exercise equipment, everything top-notch equipment that you can think of. And we put that in that park almost $30 million later. And the park still wasn't used. And it was still empty. And I had more community meetings about it. And people would say, Jose, I love the stuff you guys did, but it's still unsafe. So we started a community safety partnership program. We basically interviewed officers that wanted to work at that park. Community safety partnership programs in the city of LA are interviewed by community members, the park, and LAPD. We all interviewed, almost 100 officers applied. We interviewed them. We ended up hiring 5 African-American officers, 5 Latino officers that all spoke Spanish, majority women. And the program's been there for about 7 years. And it's been a success story. Nobody complains about them. The community officers have some sort of relationship with the community. Since we interviewed them, we had to make sure that they understood what the community stood for. They understood the community's issues and problems. So if someone's drinking at the park, the officer won't come in and arrest them or anything like that. They'll just have them move along, stuff like that. And that park has been kept safe. And it's 13 years later, it's one of our biggest utilized parks. That's the difference that community safety department. I want more officers on bike patrol, more officers on foot patrol, more officers on horse patrol. I want to see have a community sense to officers that we do hire, and I want to hire more women. I want to hire more officers with college degrees, because for the most part they have a better relationship with our community. So community, it's a big priority for me. Thank you, Mihran.
Thank you. Elmar.
Yeah, I think it's first understanding why it is that people are calling fire and police services. I think that improving public safety starts with us ensuring that the city is delivering on critical services that right now are lacking, including us making sure we turn on the lights as fast as possible whenever street lights go out, responding to housing encampments. A lot of the fires that are started in my community are because people are trying to keep warm or cook at night, and those fires get out of control. And so ensuring that the city is doing a better job in housing people and clearing encampments from places where they create dangers to residents and other structures is critical. And then making sure people have food and heat, because that is why folks are having to resort to extreme measures, burning trash and other things on the streets, as well as making sure we have mental health and other services for those folks. The other reason is people need jobs. A lot of times, crimes that are happening on the streets, petty crimes, are a result of young people, especially young men, needing jobs. And we live in a district that has a large population of folks under the age of 35. Many of them unemployed or out of school. And so attracting more jobs to the community, ensuring that folks have a way to feed their families, have shelter and food on the table is a sure bet to decrease crime. And last but not least is making sure we have targeted dispatch so that we're not deploying the police to every single call that is happening in our communities, so that whenever the police is called, it's because there is something critically dangerous happening where the police then respond, and that is when we are needed. But I think it starts with us ensuring that the city does its job in delivering critical services first and foremost, and attracting jobs to make sure that people are fed, and that to me will be a great way for us to address what has been lacking in our district for quite some time.
Thank you. Adriana.
Thank you. So public safety is not just policies, it's also having a home, clean streets, access to working lights. Currently, LAPD is the department with the highest budget and the highest liabilities. And as you all know, right now, people in our neighborhood do not feel safe. We have ICE raids in our neighborhoods, violating people who with masks, violating our basic constitutional rights. And the LAPD has failed to protect people who are being kidnapped by masked men in our neighborhoods. When the ICE raids began in February, I organized with my community to distribute over 12,000 meals. Know Your Rights workshops and connected impacted families with rental and legal aid assistance. When we call the police for an emergency here on this side of town, they often take over 10 to 30 minutes to arrive. I've taken the time to talk to my local police captains, and many struggle to address high crime because they are stuck battling with non-emergency services. There's also a lot of police stations that do not have very basic things like space where you can put community resources in the police stations. They also do not have access to translation in Spanish. There is an over-reliance on armed response for nonviolent crimes such as mental health. There's long emergency response times, and there's a lot of lack of trauma-informed and culturally competent services. So some of the proposals that I would like to bring forward is to shift non-emergency funding from the LAPD into community service departments to expand on armed crisis response, street medicine, mental health, first responders. Want to invest in neighborhood-based emergency response hubs with faster dispatch coverage. This is very important because right now, the Department of LAPD works on its own. We need to partner them up with housing, with the Family Services Department, and Even our libraries, people oftentimes go there for crises that are not related to high crime. So for us, the most important outcome that we need to have so that our money that our taxpayers are paying is to require the LAPD to have an outcome-based budgeting tied to safety outcomes, not arrest numbers, because we always see the reports and they emphasize on the arrest numbers, but we don't see a follow-through. LAPD has become more of a data center than a responsive high crime response service. Thank you.
Esterado.
Yeah, I echo the sentiment as well in terms of the most fear that folks are feeling right now is from these masked men coming into our neighborhoods. There's everyday reports of people being kidnapped by folks, and me myself leaving with my 4-year-old daughter, my 4-month-old daughter into the community. I am aware that there is a lot of discrimination and also stripping of our civil rights right now. So I would say that would be number one. Number two, I also believe in a holistic approach to what is safety in our community. Just today, as I was out canvassing in the neighborhood, identifying folks that are supporters and just having conversations in the neighborhood, I witnessed somebody on Vernon in Vermont, an older lady, probably in her 80s, that walked, hit a curve, fell, and bumped her head. And essentially, I felt really bad because there was a situation in front of me that could have been avoided had there been a well-designed infrastructure that made it so that older folks, folks with mobility issues, bicyclists, etc., are able to move in our neighborhood. When I saw her fall down, basically I saw a lawsuit happening in front of us that could have cost the city millions of dollars potentially. And we have so much of that in the Ninth City District. Out of the 10 most dangerous intersections in the entire city, 6 of them are in the Ninth City District, where dozens of people have died over the last couple of years. There's been hundreds of accidents that have caused the injury, fatality of untold people. And that needs to change, and that's something that we can control. For me, it's about I know more people that are closer to being homeless, unhoused, than I do have been mugged throughout the district. I know more folks in my community that are paying more than 90% of their income towards housing, and we need to solve that because that is community safety as well. Police officers should not be, responding to mental health crises, to family crises. Those should be trained professionals that are more attuned to social work to ensure they're there to de-escalate, to ensure that people have the resources they need to be able to navigate through crisis. Instead of responding with armed people, it should be a response with people that are trained to deal with that situation, with substance abuse, whatever it is. So that way we come to a situation with care, because essentially that's what's costing the city. We are paying so much in liability because the LAPD is needs a lot more training. We are paying, hundreds of millions, I think, in the last couple years because the LAPD has been shooting people in our community, has been too aggressive in our community, and it costs the city way too much money. And then when I turn around and I see that it takes 1 year to fix a light in our neighborhood, that it takes months to get potholes filled, I'm still waiting. Literally, I had the current council member come to my door in the last election and tell me that they would put safety measures on my street, simple things like paint on my block, and it hasn't been done. It's been 4 years later. And that needs to change because these are simple things that can save people's lives, avoid our city from paying way too much in liability costs, and ensure that our safety is something that we can control and that we can see. Because, look, the biggest problem with me going to the park isn't my neighbors at the park. It's more that the infrastructure at the park isn't up to date, that the swings don't work, that the play mats are all ripped up, that our children have second grade equipment instead of having what other communities have. So, yeah.
Thank you. Christopher.
All right, thanks. And you can call me Chris.
Okay.
I know it says Christopher on the thing, but I appreciate it. As a young Black man growing up in the district, I do understand that public safety is important. When I was a kid, there were just certain places that you couldn't go to, right? Moms would be like, don't go over there. 'Cause you get banged on. You get pressed by gangbangers. With that being said, public safety in District 9 has to mean more than just increasing the budget to law enforcement. It has to mean people actually feeling safe and getting help when they need it. But I'll tell you that the solution is not the over-policing of our community. It is not the militarization of the police, and it certainly isn't ICE. We have to invest in violence prevention through funding gang interventionist groups like Ceasefire, like United We Stand Up. We have to fund mental health response teams and street outreach organizations that employ people with lived experience to reach out to the brothers and sisters who are in gangs, so that police are not the default answer to every problem. Because like Estuardo said, they're not trying to deal with everything, right? They're not trying to deal with mental health, right? I have ample experience in holding the poorly trained ones accountable, right? When people call out for help for their mentally, for their loved one who's going through a mental health crisis, and the police come out there and kill that person because they're not properly trained, the families call on me. And yes, it does cost the city a lot of money when they have to be held accountable. So we need to put the right people in place to be able to handle those types of issues. And we have to hold our public safety systems accountable, because communities that are over-policed and underprotected do lose trust. And without trust, safety breaks down. So my approach is based on allocating real resources for prevention, real jobs and resources for community members, so that they don't feel like they have to resort to crime, and emergency response systems that will actually show up when people call for help. I believe that public safety should be effective and fair and rooted in the community. And the last thing that I'll add is we have to make sure that the street lights turn on at a decent time. That didn't even happen on my block. So that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jorge.
Thank you for that. I'm going to piggyback on Christopher. When I think of safety, I'm not thinking about more police. I'm thinking about making sure our lights are on, the streets are clean. I was walking on Figueroa a few weeks ago, and I saw two young girls with their dogs walking on the street. And, I stopped them to talk to them, and they're like, can I speak to you about the conditions of Figueroa? I said, they kind of were startled, but the girl had a mace, and she goes, it's really unsafe in this community to walk, but I got to walk my dog. I got to take my steps. And no one should feel that way. But when I think about that, I think about the basic services that the city hasn't fulfilled that creates these unsafe environments. And for me, when we talk about how do we address the responsiveness of the 911s, well, we need to get police to do their real work and address other issues that they're not equipped for like mental health crisis, having a different service for that. And we have it around the city, but we need to expand that into South Los Angeles. So again, for me, it's young people, giving young people jobs. We need to really invest in resources in our community. So for me, we have always relied on police to do some of this work. And I think they play a role, but it's not the main role for our community. I think we've been over-policed. The data doesn't say we need more police, we need more resources. For me, my approach to safety is going to be investing in young people, investing in more resources, after school programs, cleaning our streets, making them walkable, well lit. And with that support, with that work that the city could do, will help release some of the responsiveness that the LAPD could focus on more criminal activities or violent activities versus things that could be supported by social workers or mental health workers. So for me, again, it's not more police, but it's about being more in community, with bringing in all the resource to wrap around our community when it comes to mental health, safety, clean streets, and walkable streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are going to move to homelessness, housing, and encampment management. Los Angeles spends billions on homelessness, yet encampments persist across District 9. What would you do differently than current approaches, and what outcomes would you expect within 12 months? 2 minutes, Elmer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to fast track the building of housing, especially affordable housing, where we could place people permanently. And that is something that is desperately needed here. I know the state has recently passed several laws to fast track construction. And we as the city council just have to be better partners in that fight to ensure that we have places to house people, but also that housing is more affordable, because that is what's created the bottleneck. In terms of encampments, I think that we have to be more thoughtful about the type of support that we're providing to people who are on the streets. I live next to Grand Avenue in South Los Angeles, so I see the types of housing that is needed for folks. We have different types of homeless people or unhoused people that are living here, from families who stay on the corner for a couple of days or sometimes a couple of weeks, to people who have been here longer periods because they are either addicted to drugs or have mental health issues. The stereotype is that most people who are on the streets is because of mental health and drugs, but the reality is most people are there because they just can't afford the exorbitant cost of housing. Or we have elderly folks who are now being pushed onto the streets, victims of domestic violence and others. And so, we need to make sure we get outreach workers out into the streets, building relationships with folks, having that interim housing so that we can get people off the streets, and then identifying and building so that we can put people into permanent housing. In terms of homeless encampments, I see every single day the dangerous conditions that some of the homeless encampments create for folks who are walking their children to school, or on thoroughfares where they are creating unsafe conditions for pedestrians, bikers, and others. And we have to find a humane way of moving people to places that are more appropriate for encampments to exist, including empty parking lots or empty city lots where we can target services to people who are living on the streets as we wait for them to be properly housed.
Thank you. Chris.
All right. Homelessness is one of the most visible failures of city government, and District 9 has carried more than its fair share of that burden. We need to move away from encampment whack-a-mole and towards consistent, humane, and coordinated solutions. And that means outreach first, right? Shelter and housing options that actually exist in clear timelines, not just endless displacement without services. I understand that encampments impact housed residents too, right? With sanitation, safety issues, and things like that. The city and the city has an obligation to keep sidewalks passable and neighborhoods livable, while also treating unhoused people like human beings. So I support housing first strategies, and better coordination between the city and the county, and real accountability for homelessness spending. Because I feel like compassion ultimately without structure probably doesn't work, and enforcement without solutions doesn't work. And District 9 ultimately does deserve better than both of those two things. But I will also say this, so much of the city's budget, I know we were just talking about policing, so much of the city's budget goes towards policing, and if even a fraction of that budget was spent towards issues like solving homelessness and solving the housing crisis, we could promote real change in our city and certainly real change in our district.
Thank you. Adriana.
Thank you. So every day, 4 people living in the streets in our city die. In 2019, I co-founded South Central Mutual Aid LA. It's a collective of neighbors who came together because we were tired of seeing our neighbors be evicted into the streets. And in doing so, I took the time to lead this effort, and we were out on the streets talking to encampments across our entire district. And I wanted to find out how are people being impacted with the city services. And we have women who are being raped every day. We have kids who are being human trafficked. We have gangs who are taxing people living on the streets every single day. If they don't pay up a quote for a tent or an RV, they get hurt. And then we also have the police removing the very basic things that they have, like a California ID, throwing the very basic belongings that can determine whether or not they get access to services. And it's a crisis. That we must look into. We have corruption. Every other day, I see a scandal of a nonprofit executive director that's taking public funds to house the homeless, and they're pocketing the money. So we must strengthen oversight for government grants and contracts that are designated to housing people, or else this is a problem that's never going to end. The city manages homelessness through displacement and enforcement instead of housing and services. Again, when I was out there, we have women that didn't have very basic things. We have pregnant women who didn't even have access to food. And when they do have access, they don't get to choose what the needs are. They get treated with the handouts, even though there's millions of dollars that can be invested. For instance, we have St. Joseph Center in the West Side. It's very different than the one we have in South Central. I love their approach, so I would definitely be expanding the programming in District 9 to make sure that people are treated with dignity and care. If you haven't looked into their model, I encourage you all to look into it. We also have to have housing that connects people to jobs and income pathways so that people can move beyond survival. If someone's going into a government housing program, there should be a plan for them so that they don't get stuck there and that they can go out and thrive and not go back into the cycle of homelessness. And also, our public dollars must be protected. We need to have stronger oversight, as mentioned, regular audits, and real consequences when nonprofit executives misuse homelessness funds. In all, I just want to say that this issue is so important because tonight, 4 people will be dying in the streets, and people in government, like our current local officials, oftentimes police the people who are suffering. They don't even have water to drink, and they are giving them more tickets, incarcerating them instead of treating them with dignity and humanity. So that's the approach that I will be taking when I get elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Storado, 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a problem in the Ninth City District. There's more folks going into homelessness. I know that the stats say that homelessness is going down across the city, but here in the Ninth District, this seems to have been increasing. Over the last couple of years, I'm seeing more and more people live in tents. And these are, family folks. These are kids. These are people that are living on the streets. And essentially, they're people that deserve dignity and respect, and to ensure that they have the ability to get the support that they need from our city. Our city, if it truly does care of its people, if it truly does want to live the values that we say that we do, then it's about taking care of the most vulnerable people and making sure that they aren't just being scooted from sidewalk to sidewalk, from underpass to underpass, making it harder for them to get on their feet, and also spending untold millions of dollars on really an attempt to just cover an ill in our society, which is the lack of affordability in our city. It's the runaway rental pricing in our city. It's the lack of not having wages that haven't kept up with the cost of housing and living in the city. It's also, it creates it's a waste for the city of LA just to go and push people from place to place. So as a council member, what I would do would be model our office just like it has in places that we see a reduction in homelessness, where other progressive candidates have been able to establish special teams, specialized teams to go out there, build relationships with people, have those conversations, really be able to pinpoint the needs of the people and help folks get on their feet in a humane way. Um, Additionally, I think the Ninth City District has done its lion's share of building affordability in the city of Los Angeles. Our district has some of the highest amount of zoning that is multifamily. We have some of the highest amount when it comes to affordability in the entire city. What I would do as a council member is to connect those people to places that have access to jobs. So I would actually fight as a city council member to open up the places that have essentially fought for segregationist policy to keep black and brown people away from those neighborhoods when I would say high resource neighborhoods. Just last year, the city of Los Angeles went through a process called the City Housing Incentive Program, which required the city to upzone tracts of land that were considered single family home under the mandate from the state to build hundreds of thousands of new units in the city of LA. Guess which place was able to keep the upzoning from happening? The wealthiest parts of our city that could afford lawyers that could sue the city, and we're able to lobby the city to keep the building of affordable housing in high resource neighborhoods from happening yet again, essentially creating pockets of racialized poverty in the city of LA, and that needs to change. If we're a city that has gone beyond the segregationist policy that have created places like the Ninth City District where there is essentially a concentration of racialized poverty, then we need to break through that segregationist wall that still exists and build in areas that are high resource for people of low income and very low income to be able to partake in the economic vitality of those communities as well, because we're already doing our share. You can't look at the Ninth District and say we haven't. We have, and it's time for other parts of the city to do its share as well. And one more last thing is this: that I would be a big proponent of ensuring that ULA stays as strong as possible to ensure that the largest resource for housing and homelessness prevention in the city of LA stays intact because we need every dollar, especially now that the federal government is cutting every which way.
Thank you. Jorge.
Thank you about that. And can we do a better job of keeping it under 2 minutes? Because it seems like it's just dragging. And
Yes.
Sorry about that, Stardo. It's a lot. My approach to housing, to me, is housing first approach with services. But one thing that I think that it's important is the outreach team. For me, having this idea of localizing a lot of efforts is hiring people who have invested interest in really transform this community. So people that are part of the management team, outreach team, that we come from communities from CD9, so that they have invested interest in making this work. We talked about converting motels and vacant building lots for affordable housing. I think we all agree that that's important, but I think the city has to do a better job of helping affordable housing built faster. Remove a lot of the red tape, because with time is money, and we've wasted billions of dollars on just not getting the results we haven't gotten. And I think when I reflect on that, how do we hold the nonprofits accountable to this waste? For me as a council member, I'm going to reevaluate any nonprofit that provides services in our district and really do a kind of an audit. Like, why should we keep hiring organizations or giving money to organizations that are not creating the results? For me, I'm looking at it so much waste. It's not about being friendly with these folks. We're providing them billions of dollars, millions of dollars to do this work, and we're not getting no results. For me, first day in office, I will make sure I do a complete audit and evaluation of their services, because I think it's just wasteful. So, but for me, at the end of the day, it's housing first approach with services and having an outreach team that live in South Central Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose.
I think we kind of all agree the housing first approach. I'm a little different because our budget doesn't allow that anymore. We came into $1 billion budget deficit. If we had all the money in the world, yes, give everybody homes, get them off the street. That's easy to say, but we don't. We have to look at what we have now. Our district abuts about 5 cities: City of Vernon, City of Huntington Park, City of Southgate, City of Linwood, and unincorporated. All those cities have made laws that has kept their cities clean. If you drive down Alameda, you look on the west side of Alameda, all encampments are there. If you look on the east side of Alameda, there's no encampments. And if you see signs on those cities, it says no overnight parking, no encampments blocking sidewalks. And it's kept those cities clean. They still have homelessness and they build housing for it and it's getting, but what's happening is all those people are coming to my district, to our district, the 9th district, and setting up shop. They're parking, they're setting encampments, and everybody living around there they're upset. Like, hey, how come our city can't have rules and regulations like other cities? And if you drive down the streets, you look at a lot of these RVs, they're not from even LA, they're not from California, they're from other states. The reason why is because we allowed this to happen. Yes, homelessness is a political issue, and as politicians, we failed. But we need those rules and regulations to say, hey, you can't park here a certain amount of time. I want to really ban RVs and encampments around schools, 100%, around parks, around our places of worship, around community areas where people use. It's just not acceptable. That's something that I really have to address, and it's got to be hard, but we have to really start working on laws and regulations that are working in other parts of the city, other parts of the county. I know San Francisco started doing this healthy living first. So they go and address people who have a criminal record or who are aggressive, that live on the streets, that you guys can't live on the streets anymore. You need to have mental health help right away, immediately. And I want to look into that first. I wish you could do housing first, too expensive. But if people are aggressive, people have assault or battery charges against them, they shouldn't be living on the streets. They need to help that they get. We also need to provide housing. I think that you guys are right. Housing to build in the city of LA is impossible. There's a couple issues that we got to address from DWP, giving them a year to put in a simple meter in, to building and safety, not passing permits in 6 months to also a year. And that slows everything down. So when people want to build housing, they're not going to build it in LA. They're going to build it in other parts of the county. They're going to put it in other counties. That's something also we need to address. So thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Now, you have all mentioned about one major problem about housing affordability and tenant protections. With rising rents and displacement pressures, how would you balance tenant protections with new housing development in District 9? And what policies would you prioritize immediately? Let's go with Chris this time. 2 minutes, please.
All right. First off, I want to say that I got to disagree with my brother Jose, because I think that the money is there. I think it's just being used on things that don't help our community, and worse, it is being used on things that harm our community. I think that we have to reassess our city's budget and give less money to the things that harm our community, give less money to the things that don't help our community, and give more money to the things that will actually help our community, right? Like housing. Because, housing affordability, I believe, is one of the defining issues of our time in District 9. And people aren't leaving because they want to. I believe that they're being, in many cases, they're being priced out. I will increase the number of homeowner grants and loans so that people can own homes in the district and maintain the homes that they already do have. I believe that we need to protect tenants. We need to preserve existing affordable housing. We need to build more housing that working people can actually afford. And that includes enforcing tenant protections, cracking down on illegal evictions, and making sure that renters know their rights. At the same time, we can't ignore supply. We do need smart zoning reforms. We need transit-oriented development and deeper affordability requirements, especially in a district where displacement has already done real damage. I believe that we need to build more housing over by the train stations, over by the buses, and just the transit area, so that it's easier for folks to get to work. I believe that housing policies shouldn't be driven by developers alone or frozen by fear. And my goal is simple. People who work in District 9 should be able to live in District 9 without living one rent increase away from eviction. Was that under 2 minutes? I hope it was.
Serrado, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mihran. Yeah, the development of housing is important in the Ninth City District. Can I ask for a favor? Can you post the question on the chat? Is there a way you
Sure.
can do that? Thank you. I appreciate that. Just because listening to everybody has their own idea. I want to make sure that I have how I want to answer this question. I appreciate that, sir. Before I start responding.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah. Look, as an organizer in the city of LA last year, we made a huge dent in being able to keep the city of LA more affordable. If you've seen just recently, I think it was a study done that it was the first time in many years that the rent, it was a renter's market essentially in the city of LA. And that is in big part to the work that I've done advocating for tenants in the city of LA, advocating for workers to have a place in the city. Just last year again, we were able to win a huge victory for millions of people through directly from the work that I did as a council, I would do it as a council member. Unfortunately, the current council member excludes themselves from the actual vote in the Ninth City District for tenants, even though we're a high percentage tenant community. What I would say is we were able to win Larso, which made sure that the rent got lower for folks. It used to be up to 8%, and now it's down to 4%. These are for folks that live in rent control units in the city of LA. 600,000 units, millions of people literally got notice that we won't be expecting an 8% raise in the rent with a 1% increase for every utility or a new person coming in, a baby or a sick family member that you have to take in. Additionally, I think that one of the things that the City 9, we have to ensure that we're building affordability across the city of Los Angeles. And CD9, it actually doesn't pin out to have market rate development happen in our district. It's harder to create market rate development in our district. If that were to happen in mass, it would mean a massive displacement of our people. It would mean that there's already been deep gentrification in our neighborhood. So essentially, we need to ensure that we're opening up those wealthier, wider, higher resource neighborhoods to ensure that we're building affordability there. Because in the Ninth City District, we're already doing our part. Additionally, I would also say that we need to ensure that we're protecting already RSO units from being demolished. And if there is a demolition of an RSO unit, there needs to be at least a 1-for-1 replacement to ensure that we don't lose any affordability in the city of Los Angeles. So apart from that is also inclusive zoning, making sure that people have inclusive zoning in the city of LA when there's new development occurring, that it's for extremely low income folks are also included in market rate. So those are some of the things that I would fight for and
Thank
that I have fought for already. Thank you.
Thank you, Serrado. Elmar.
Yeah, I think it starts with us believing that the residents of CD9 deserve quality housing and deserve to live and stay in the communities where, folks have been in for decades, as opposed to seeing them as expandable or disposable when development and progress happens. I think it starts with us rezoning CD9, looking at outdated zoning rules that have prevented us from building not only more infill, but also looking at development around transportation corridors and exploring all alternatives to ensure that we increase the market, and the number of units available. It also includes balancing affordable housing with low income housing. We need both in a district where folks earn less than $47,000 a year, but we also have a large population of young professionals who love South Central Los Angeles, who have gone away to college, who have made themselves in different industries and want to see progress happening here in the community and want to live in quality housing. I also believe in building multi-use developments where you have businesses that are rendering services to folks in the community, businesses that often large corporations refuse to bring to our residents. And that is generating dollars to help offset the costs of some of these developments, as well as services, making sure that these sites have nonprofit organizations and other service providers that are helping residents that are living in those constructions or new buildings that we're making. I would also I'd address the issue for landlords and not clumping all landlords together. I feel like the city of Los Angeles could benefit from us having a two-tiered system where we separate corporate landlords from mom and pop landlords who are also being affected whenever we cap rents. I believe in capping rents. I believe that the movement to re-strengthen RSO was critical and very important, but also for mom and pop landlords who are also being priced out because of the high increase in insurance and utilities and upkeep of properties. Many folks in the community depend on that extra income that is coming from those rental properties. And last but not least, I think that keeping people housed in CD9 is not only about what I just mentioned, but it's also about increasing wages. The best way to ensure that people can stay put in our communities is ensuring that they have the money needed to keep up with the high cost of inflation, and as prices keep going up, that they are able to afford the housing that is available to them. So bringing more jobs, bringing more opportunities for folks to prosper is a core priority that goes hand in hand with building more housing here in the district.
Thank you. Adriana.
Thank you. So right now it costs over $1,700 to rent a one-bedroom apartment. It is unaffordable to live in our neighborhood that raised us, and we are being displaced through gentrification. We are being displaced faster than housing is being built or protected, and there's many reasons for this. One of the main ones is because our city council representatives are selling out our communities to developers, including Councilmember Price, who is facing 11 charges of public corruption. And we also have city employees who are hiding their economic assets by bypassing our conflict interest laws and benefiting from decision-making with developers. Therefore, we need stronger conflict of interest laws. We need enforcement. Otherwise, we will continue to be plagued with public corruption, and it will lead to community erasure, especially in our area where a lot of people cannot get involved because they're too busy working 2 to 3 jobs to pay for rent. We are also facing a high number of people in our community who are unfamiliar with the English language. This is a big barrier to city services. A lot of people who are renters do not know their rights. As a result, landlords take advantage and displace them. I was raised by parents who worked in sweatshops earning 2 cents per piece they sold together. They had no English, no union protections, no healthcare. That's some reality for the majority of people who live in our district. As a result, I live with a family of 10 in one-bedroom apartment. We have weak enforcement of tenant protections. I visited homes where there's a lot of black mold, children sleeping in bathtubs and kitchens. Landlords are abusing their tenants' rights and they're not being held accountable. Therefore, we must enforce tenant protections. Everyone deserves access to dignified quality housing. And it also starts by supporting mom and pop landlords who are struggling to survive. Number 4, we also have limited paths to home ownership for working families. If people my age, it's not affordable for us to become homeowners right now, and we need to be intentional with building affordable housing and also expand first-time home buyer programs and community land trusts that honor mixed use housing. We need to honor the people who lived in our district to have access to buy locally, and this can be done by working with higher education institutions to develop housing for students. We can work with small businesses or social enterprises to fund housing for workers in our district. And also, we have a lot of developers coming into our district trying to build because we have the Olympics and we have the stadiums in our district. We have, a lot of wealth that's moving into our area because of the Olympics. And I think that's amazing. We need more development, but we need to be intentional. We need to make sure that if we develop housing, it's for the people who live here first. And right now, the AMI is very high. Like, we don't have a lot of housing that's actually affordable being built. Most people have to live with 5-6 people just to pay 1 month of rent. That's unacceptable, and we need to change that.
Thank you. Jorge.
Yeah. So, for me, is meeting our families where they're at. There's different people in our community that are different places. If it's affordable housing, if it's home ownership, if it's, extremely, affordable housing. I think when we look at our district is how do we meet different families? If something that I put on my economic development plan is, focusing on, first time buyers. How do we get grants from the state and the city really work together? But I really think the city, the county, and the state need to go into housing. And if we continue to just rely on the private sector or the nonprofit sector to just develop at their pace, we need to do something different. We need to compete for more resources. So, when I ran for the county supervisor 4 years ago, one of my plans was really getting back into housing. We're struggling to not build fast enough, but if the city allows you to come in to give you seed money for your, not seed money, but grants for down payments, or the state, and they've done it before, but we need to do it more. So I'm looking at this from a place of we really need to build more, but we just cannot just rely on the private sector to do it at their pace. So we really need to rethink that. And of course, a lot of the ideas we talked about, really, stronger enforcement against illegal eviction, protect renters' rights for stabilization. I agree with all that. Just with the new state law with more housing around transit corridors, but we also, who is building? Are we building it for our community? Are we building for people in this district? Is really important. It's not just build, but who are we building for? So we need to look at those details, because if we always going to be fighting every development to put in 3%, 5% of affordable housing, we're losing this battle. So we really need to rethink how we do this equitable in a meaningful way. And the time is now. People are being more supportive in these kind of new models. And that's something, as a council member, I'm going to be looking at what's the best way to really get a more affordability in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose.
Thanks. We get a lot of developers who want to come into our district, especially now with the World Cup coming, the Olympics coming, the convention center is getting renovated. A lot of developers come in and say, hey, we want to build 500 units of marketplace housing. And as a council office, we have the ability to say no. Because we don't say no, we ask them for something. We ask them for affordable housing, not 35%, we ask them 15 plus. We ask them for local hire, we ask them for living wages, we ask them for community benefits, we ask them for everything. And if they say no, then they run off and they say no. That's a way to keep our community accountable. It's a way to keep our community from stopping to be gentrified. It's a way to keep our community from making its own future. Like Adriana says, $1,700 for a 1-bedroom apartment. That's the cheapest in the entire city of LA in the 9th district. We want to keep it that way. I know this is the first year that housing prices and rental prices have not gone up. The last 2 months, I think they announced. But the second we turn our heads away or we approve a project, it can demolish our districts. So we got to be very careful when it comes to that. Development is coming. A lot of development is coming right across the street from the convention, from the Coliseum, from the AFC Stadium. It's all by right. They basically bought a bunch of empty lots and started building housing, it's going to change. You're going to see the district changing a little bit. And as a council office, we got to make sure that we ask for our fair share. Good paying jobs, local hire. LAFC Stadium is an example of what I worked on 8 years ago now, where a lot of people did not want a brand new stadium be built because it was going to gentrify the community. We took that chance. We built that stadium. We approved it. We asked them for a 20% local hire. They're at 50% local hire. That means people in our community are walking to that stadium, having good paying jobs and working there. And it hasn't gentrified. The community is still pretty stable as it was 7 years ago. And LAFC is one of the most progressive football teams in the nation, and we're proud to have them in our backyard. That's good community development. That's what I want to do.
Thank you. So, my next question is one of my favorite. It's about youth education and community investment. We need to do a better job. And my question to you all, how would you invest in youth programs, education partnerships, and violence prevention efforts? And how would you measure long-term impact? Jorge.
Well, thank you for that question. You know, when I opened the Big House 20 years ago, that was my first effort, is to work with young people. I remember that December, I think it was 2005, and I built a skate park for the kids in the community because their street was so, you know, you couldn't skateboard on the street. So I did that. But my radicalization in my community started with young people. And young people for me is the future. Young people is who we need to invest so that they become the next doctor, the next entrepreneur in this community. And there's a huge there's a lot of energy right now coming from young people wanting to really invest in South Los Angeles. So for me, the future is the young people, and that's where I see where we deal with crime, is investing in them. Again, for the last 20 years, we gave workshops. We had different organizations at the Big House who provide services to young people, teach them from being entrepreneurs to being master of chefs to being coders to anything you could think of. My community, the Big House is responding to young people. So one thing for me is investing in young people is going to be a priority. Investing in parks, make sure there's programming at parks. I was a park kid, and I remember when I was 13 years old when I went back to the park and the program was no longer there, which was the football and basketball program. I became a little tagger. So I was tagging in my early age. You know, I had nothing else to do, you know, but I realized having lived that experience, the importance of investing in young people. So for me, that's going to be a priority, youth employment, and just providing space for them to really kind of have space to them to grow. So you can count on me as your councilman to invest in young people, because that's where I started. Thank you.
Estorado, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, look, our district has the youngest population in the entire city. We're the future of the city of Los Angeles. It is truly unfortunate in the Ninth City District. 37% of our children live below the federal poverty line. So we essentially need to create kind of what I would call a children's bill of rights or a youth bill of rights to ensure that people the kids in our community have a fair shot of being able to have, substantially better lives than what is being provided by what we have right now, which would also include, to me, ensuring that every kid has access to good after-school programs in our district, that parents that have to work 2 and 3 jobs have the support in childcare. So opening up childcare centers instead of closing down childcare centers. Right now, we just lost a few childcare centers here in my district where my kid goes. A lot of the kids got turned around this month because the city of LA essentially decided to close down, helping out low-income folks, the program that was subsidizing low-income children in our community. And that's an unfortunate thing in our community because we have so many kids that have a high need. So it's about making sure that there's programs in our local neighborhoods. I'm a big believer in looking at schools as community schools, ensuring that schools aren't just being used during school hours, that they're actually opened up for the kids in our communities after school hours, during the weekends, with programming around health and education and self-development, etc., that are outside the regular curriculum. I also believe that we should be increasing green space for our children. Like, we have zero point 0.3 acres of green space for every 1,000 people in our community. That's very low. So improving our kids' lives, improving their ability to see a different world, is also providing green space for them. So increasing green space by building right next to that new stadium, the Bank of California. We have a chance to build multiple acres of green space in our neighborhood, and I'd be pushing for that to ensure that our children have access to more green space, more recreation, and also partnering up with LA Trade Tech to ensuring that our kids have access to trades that can then lead to, other opportunities. Look, myself, I have 3 college degrees, and it started at Trade Tech. I got an AS in HVAC technology. I have a bachelor's in labor studies, and I have a master's in public administration. And all of that started because I was able to access the trades and get a solid understanding of academia through Trade Tech, ensuring that I also had a pathway to a middle class job. But I morphed and I ended up becoming an organizer, and now I'm here standing in front of you running for city council. So
Thank you, Storado. Elmar,
This is my favorite topic to talk about because my life story is a product of someone investing in me when I was a young person. And that's what I've dedicated my entire career to. The last 30 years have been about opening opportunities for young people to have a voice, to impact policy at LA Unified, to create more opportunities for young folks, to find pathways to college and career. We know that the pendulum is swinging once again. We used to have young people very focused on entering jobs right out of high school, and then college became the aim for the last 20 years. But because of college affordability, young people are seriously exploring careers today, and that's what we need to continue to invest in. And there's a few ways that I've done that and will continue to do that. One, I was the president of the Commission on Community and Family Services through the Community Investment Fund, which is now being merged with other departments. They partner with work source centers, with youth source centers, where young people can find opportunities every single day in their backyards. I believe that we have to expand not only the reach, but the way that these work source centers partner with schools and other nonprofits that are serving young people, ensuring that young folks have access to jobs and housing, training services, and art and wellness. That's something that is severely lacking here in Council District 9, ensuring that we have pipelines to careers, and connecting it to workforce housing. I think that, one of the best ways that we can have the city be a better partner to young folks is to identify ways of articulating with not only the K-12 system, but also our community college system and universities in the area to ensure that young folks and recent college grads have a direct pipeline into city jobs. I think it's criminal that the city says that we have a lot of vacancies that go unfulfilled, and we have to outsource city jobs because we quote unquote can't find enough people to hire. Well, the unions provide a great model for it, where they have apprenticeships for young people to enter those fields. We should do the same in city jobs, where we can have current professionals working in the city, training young folks to become the next generation of civic servants. And there are just a lot of opportunities, especially with the world events coming, ensuring that young folks have access to jobs, training, and other resources that can last beyond those 2 weeks that those world events are coming to Los Angeles.
Jose.
I'm a big supporter of our GRID programs, gang reduction, youth prevention. They focus on our youth, focus on our schools to make sure the kids that are in the middle of either joining a gang or doing drugs get the help that they need. I am a product of that. I had after school programs ran by the city that made sure I played sports. I learned an instrument and it kept me out of crime, kept me out of trouble, kind of. And I really want to support programs like that. Summer Lights program is the most effective summer program in the entire country. It's been up there since what? Now we're at 20 something years. Basically during the summer when the crime rates are the highest because youth don't have anything to do. They start programming at all our parks. Actually, only 3 of our parks. I want to bring it to all our parks. They provide jobs to our youth. They program from sports to music to arts, everything you can think of all throughout the summer. And it's wonderful. We need to expand it to every single one of our parks. I think we only have 3. I want to expand it to Central Park, to Vermont Square, to Gilbert Lindsay's the first year expanded. We'll see if it stays. But that's something that we have to expand. We have to work on. We need the funding for it, and we can't take any funding away from that program. It saves lives. I also started a youth development program that provided. It's called the Ugarte Youth Leadership Program. It gives $1,000 to 10 students in the 9th district to go to college. This is my 2nd year doing it. Some of these kids have gone to Yale, Harvard. They're still there. It has to do with me. When I was a young kid, I had people help me and tell me, "Hey, man, what do you need? You need some money, buy some books, you need a laptop." And they didn't ask for anything back. They wanted me to pay it forward. And I've been paying it forward. I'm trying to pay it forward even more because sometimes you just need a little bit of help to get to college. Sometimes you need a little help to stay out of trouble. And I'm leading by example. Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you. Investing in youth is how we break cycle, right? Not with slogans, but with resources. And I'm literally the result of what happens when you invest in youth. I'm born and raised in the community and never left my community because I love my community. I'm a proud product of a place called home off of 28th and Central Avenue. That's a community-based after-school program in the district on the east side, and it helped to make me the man that I am today. Helped me to get my bachelor's from UC Santa Barbara, and eventually inspired me to get my doctorate in law from UC Hastings. Now, I believe that we have to create more programs like that. We have to fund programs like the Youth Justice Coalition over on 76th and Central. When I was a kid, I was a part of the Ralph Bunch Leadership Youth Academy off of 42nd and Central Avenue at the Dunbar Hotel. And we came up with ideas for the first organic farmers market on 43rd and Central back in 2003. Curran Price took that over 10 years later when he became city councilman, and it still goes on to this day. As a 15-year-old kid, we created jobs doing that, gave people a reason to grow food and to sell it. And we created the first, we created the Central Ave Jazz Park over on 43rd and Central. Those were ideas that came out of that think tank of teenage kids that I was a part of back in 2003, as well as a skateboarding park at Gilbert Lindsay Park. That was all work that I did because somebody entrusted me in the group of, teenagers that we were as kids back in 2003. I think we need to, bring that back. District 9 needs expanded after-school programs, arts and sports funding, mental health services, and real pathways to careers. I want to create a job training center on Central Avenue that specifically teaches our youth about technology so that they can become 6-figure earners like me and never leave their community like me, but improve it from within like me. We need to give more funding to community centers like the ones that helped raise me. They are proven solutions, but they are often underfunded and overlooked. Ultimately, education doesn't stop at the schoolhouse door. It's when families are stable and neighborhoods are safe and young people see opportunity, outcomes improve. So we should be investing upstream in prevention, like, of course, GRID, like, of course, gang interventionist groups like United We Stand Up, like Ceasefire, we should be investing in mentorship programs like the Route Bunch Leadership Youth Academy, instead of paying later for our failures to invest in our youth, because our young people are assets, and City Hall should treat them that way. And we have the money in the budget to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana.
Right. So right now, District 9, we have the youngest population in our city. Young people, we have a lot of people who are talented, who are young, but we lack opportunity, space, and support. Growing up in South Central, a lot of people did not know this about me, but it's not easy to grow up here. We had race riots in our schools. We had school lockdowns. And when I was in middle school, I had my first loved one killed by local gangs. And I was not safe to go to school. And my parents were too busy working to survive. So I ditched for several months and no one noticed I was gone. So I understand the importance of having access to youth programs, because I had access to youth programs and it helped me turn my life around. One of the nonprofits that I work with was a place called Home. In high school, I also had the opportunity to serve as a young senator with back then Senator Gilbert Cedillo, and I learned how to navigate systems to create opportunities for myself and for youth in my neighborhood. We noticed that the city didn't have a youth development department, and they lack very basic programs in LAUSD. So in 2010, upon graduating from high school, I used the skills I learned in the Young Senators program to found Empowering Youth in South Central. We had no money, but we had a bunch of young people who wanted to better their lives and their futures. So we supported over 5,000 students with their college and career journey. We learned how to apply to college, so we would throw flyer parties in our backyards, bring their laptop, and support people with their applications. We brought college centers to local high schools. We didn't even have spaces where people can get support for colleges, so I helped bring that in our schools. We work with our local electeds to create jobs and paid internships to students in our district. And I also recruited a lot of students and youth to serve in their local neighborhood council. And I also established a Dream Research Center at Trade Tech College. I fought for the California Dream Act to ensure that every student, regardless of citizenship, can have an education. We also have a school to prison pipeline. If you ever saw by LA Academy, it looks exactly like a prison, literally a replica of it. And for me, that's unacceptable. We need to improve the way in which things are being built. And, this is why I advocated for the Department of Youth Development to be established. I was one of the biggest advocates the first time I ran for office. It was very intentional to make a point that young people deserve to be honored in the city through services. However, we have the lowest funding in that department, and we need to turn that around. We need to create jobs, but also we need to create a first labor union educational center in District 9 so that everybody upon graduating from high school can have access to a union job. Not just the friends of the connected people, but everybody in our neighborhood. And we can also transform our libraries and our parks into learning and innovation hubs for technology innovation, but also talent. We have a lot of musicians, a lot of rappers, a lot of dancers, a lot of videographers, social media content creators who need tools to expand their social entrepreneurship. And we don't have that available in our libraries. We go to other side of town, they have that, but we don't, and we need to change that. We need to fund arts and sports and wellness center. We have a bunch of young people right now organizing, taking over the streets, showing us what leadership looks like when we honor their needs. A lot of folks do not want to struggle with obesity, so they're advocating for better food. They're advocating to have a wellness hub at South LA Wetlands Park because there's an empty building that has been sitting there for years, and we don't need more policing, Jose. We need wellness programs in there. So I hope that we take that in consideration for all of us who are running. A lot of young people, a lot of you have shown up to their running clubs, but a lot of them need a wellness center, and we need to deliver that to them. And I am committed to doing that. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to ask a question about transparency, ethics, and City Hall accountability. Public trust in City Hall is low. What specific transparency or ethics reforms would you support, and how would you hold departments accountable? Jose.
Great question. As you guys know, I got fined $17,000 by the City Ethics Commission for not disclosing my income in 2021 when I was not working for the city. And instead of me fighting them and asking for a trial, asking for a hearing, I agreed to their terms. And I said, look, I believe in ethics. I forgot to report it. I didn't even know I had to report it. But when you come work for the city, you have to report all your income you made in a whole year before that, even if it was no conflict at all. But I agreed to it. I paid for it. City Ethics wants to fine me a little bit more. I agreed to that as well. I think that people need to look at our elected officials, and if they committed something wrong, they need to admit it and say, okay, and I'm the first one to admit it. I got fined. I paid for it. I already paid for it. Maybe I'll get a fine a little bit more, but you guys read about it. You guys talk about it. But it's something that ethics, I really believe that City Ethics is doing the best they can to make sure we all disclose where our money's coming from, or we're doing on campaigns. They also need to be a little stronger. Their department is not fully funded as well. They're a self-sufficient department. So that's why these fines are pretty big to make sure that they pay them their own salaries. I want to make sure it's fully funded. To make sure that there's no conflict of interest with them too, just make sure that they are able to inspect and interview all the candidates. Right now, I think we all went to City Ethics today. We all had to report our income for the whole year. Hopefully nobody missed anything, or else you're gonna go through what I went through. Because it's not good stuff. Second thing, my boss has been going through some stuff. My former boss has been going through some stuff. I think some of you guys were in court as well. I'm not going to go into the trial, but he's finally just had his pre-trial and he's going to trial again for a real trial, first time ever that he's in front of a jury. Has not been found guilty of anything. If anything, I always say I'm the one that's more guilty because I said I committed my ethics violations and I paid the fine. He has not been found guilty of anything. He's barely going to trial right now. And if we all believe in justice, and we all believe in innocent to proven guilty, and that's what's going on. His trial is going to take. It's probably not going to be scheduled to 2027. This election will be set in stone. It will be over by then. But I also believe in expanding the city council. I think that 15 council members for almost 300,000 people is way too much. City of New York has over 50 council members, or aldermen, they call them. For double our population, we at least need to get to City of New York status. At least I think we need to get to at least 25 council members to make sure that every district is looked at, scrutinized, and addressed by our city council members. I believe in public transparency. I think we all should too, and we have to report. We need stronger laws to report stuff like that. When I used to work in the state assembly, I used to get a call from state ethics to make sure I filled out my Form 700. They used to walk me through it, and I'd fill it out and never had any issues. Now that I work at the city, they don't do that anymore. The city relies on you to do it. I think the city needs to take advantage, and they need to make sure that we fill it out directly. They do the research to make sure this never happens again. Thank you.
Jorge.
Thank you. I hope we all paid attention to what Jose said. Like, this is exactly what we don't want in office. He's shown his leadership of going same behavior as current Price. So I think it's important to pay attention to. He said even the fact that Kern won't go into trials of 2027 because he hopes that doesn't impact his election. I think as far as transparency, I think we need to do more so people don't just get fined, but they are forced to resign for participating in not, and not being transparent. And I think we all could agree with that. We need more enforcement. We need more accountability with our elected official. It's just very embarrassing to have a council member in office right now, knowing that he's going to trial for 13 counts of corruption, and then also having a staff member of him actually running for this same seat, getting the same donors that is getting into that are paying for his defense fund, also are donating to Jose's fund. So it's very important that we paint a really clear picture of what's really going on. And I think it's important that all of us as candidates, we can put pressure on the city to make sure that people are held accountable and fast track accountability. So that's my position on accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Serrado.
Like, it's unfortunate in the Nice City district, the hardest working district, folks show up to work day in and day out, and we don't have the political leadership that actually represents our interests in City Hall for years now, in terms of just like not being able to get seated on a committee in City Council. Basically, a council member that hasn't been able to stand on his 2 feet in City Council for about 2 years now at this point. It's been an ongoing drama. We need better representation. Is one of the reasons why our community has had the level of services that it has had. And look, I'll be honest, which one is it, Jose? Is it that you know how to do it because you went to Sacramento and filed the 700s, or is it that you don't know how to do it? It's like, which one are you going to choose? Are you an expert in knowing how to do policy, or are you not an expert in knowing how to do policy and how to read policy? The Form 700, is pretty straightforward. You label what you earned, you don't. I did it for the first time, pretty easy. I don't run a lobbyist, and I'm not a paid consultant. I don't try to run signature gathering operations on the side while also working for City Council. The list goes on and on and on. And this is one of the reasons why in our district we have such low voter turnout, is because they don't see themselves with good political representation. So I think to that degree, I feel like we need to have a definite change in the Ninth City District. We need to have transparency. And I truly do believe that it is time to move on from what we've been represented by. I've given ample opportunity and just space to ensure that the process happens. And so far, that's produced lackluster results for our community in the Ninth City District. And it is definitely something that needs to change. So enforcement is important. It needs to be held. And having ethics violations definitely does not look good. So,
thank you. Adriana.
Thank you. As mentioned, when public trust is eroded, and decisions happen behind closed doors, it's why the people in our district don't vote, because the thing that we hear every day is like, what's the point of electing someone new? They're all the same, right? And it is the reason why a lot of this is happening is because people from other cities, from other districts move into the community to govern us. And so it doesn't hurt them when they see our neighbors, the ones that we were raised with, in our streets dying because they lack basic services. And that's why we need to increase city ethics, conflict of interest laws, and enforcements. A simple fine for evading to disclose assets for years is not enforcement. It's also unfair for the residents of LA to have to deal with the consequences of being stuck with, potentially, right, with another 12 years of corruption. That's not going to happen. And that's why I'm glad that all of us are here to challenge that and take ownership of our communities. And we need to expand City Council from 25 to 30 members, but we also need to have City Council disclose their discretionary funding. We need to see where they're spending it to ensure that everyone in our district has equal access to city grants. Over and over again, I know a lot of people who are rooted in our community who are volunteering because they don't have access to these fundings. It's always going to the friends of the council member, who are, a lot of them are money laundering, and that's part of the reason why we're being investigated in this district, at least our council member and other candidates. And we need to ensure that that's also taken care across the city departments. Again, every other year, we hear scandals of mismanagement of funds, especially for the people who are suffering the most, which are the people facing homelessness. On my first day in office, I will call a meeting with all 44 department managers to introduce myself and create monthly reports. We need to have more communications with our city departments to make sure that they understand that we need leadership with accountability. Because right now, every department works on its own. They do not collaborate with different city services. And that's part of the reason why it moves really slowly because we don't have spaces where they can talk together, where they can come together and find solutions to the problems that are facing our city. Also, I do support keeping the position of our city controller. Kenneth Mejia has done a really good job in making sure that the average person understands where funds are going. Before Kenneth Mejia, it was extremely hard for the average person to understand how the city funding works. And so, as a young person that he is, it's a testament of why we need people who are young, who understand how to communicate with the average voter so that we can increase participation. Because when more people participate in our government, we have the Ethics Commission meeting every week. We have the city charter reform happening right now, and a lot of us cannot attend because we're working, right? But when we have accountability and transparency, it will only come if we make it accessible for the average person to attend, and for the average person to also understand how the government works, because that's part of the reason why corruption is happening, because the average person doesn't understand the public funding system. They don't understand how City Hall works. So in order for us to bring all of that, it needs to start by us meeting people where they're at and ensuring that they have the tools they need to have their voice heard in City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
Trust in City Hall is broken, and it's not accidental. We need leaders who are not afraid to walk with integrity, with their head held high, and who aren't afraid to put the community first. I gave a statement about this in the LA Times last week, one of a number of articles that mentioned this campaign. And if the allegations are true, Brother Curran's got to step down, and his staff who allegedly enabled him to step down too. I do think that we need clear ethical standards, real transparency, and consequences when public officials abuse power. And that includes stronger oversight and clearer disclosure and an end to backroom decision making. As a civil rights lawyer, accountability is not theoretical to me. It is the foundation of justice. Public office is a public trust, and residents deserve leaders who respect that. So I support reforms that make government more open, more ethical, and more responsive, because without trust, nothing else works. Like everybody else said, this is a low voter turnout area, and that's because people feel like the politicians don't really care about them, that they put themselves first over the community. We need somebody in office who's going to put the community first. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer.
I feel like people need hope, they need action, and they need honesty. And this conversation gives me hope because what I hear is a commitment to be accountable to the people that we are running to represent, to look out for the interests of those who have been left behind and who are vulnerable and continue to be taken for granted by a city whose priorities are all over the place. I feel like city council members forget what their primary job is, and that is to deliver for the people of their districts. And I believe that the budget is the most powerful tool that we have to hold ourselves and our city accountable. We have to make sure that the city, first and foremost, speaks to the values that we uphold and the priorities that we have to deliver to the people, not only in our district but to the city and the taxpayers who are ultimately the ones who make it possible for us to have money available for us to deliver on those services. We have to keep to the levels that we approve the kickoff every 1st of July. And then we have to make sure that departments stay to the budgets that we approve for them. Because right now we have folks coming back and asking for more money. We're paying exorbitant legal fees to outside legal firms when we should be spending that money to house people and to pay for city services. The other big contributor to this is the way that PACs are set up. city funding limits are relatively low. Right now, all of us here are having to go out and raise dollars, and $1,000 is the max that someone can give you publicly. But the reality is there's a way to back channel that through IEs and secret PACs where people can give a lot higher levels and they can influence an election, and that then contributes to who politicians are beholden to. And so I feel like by making that more transparent, we know whose hands are in the pot when it comes to influencing elections, and then who elected officials are then accountable to. I also believe that as an elected official, even though you are elected to represent the people of a specific district, your job is to hold your colleagues on the council accountable. And what I hear often is when a council member or a city department chief is accused of impropriety, you have those same colleagues coming out and defending their colleagues for violating the public's trust. And I believe that we have a duty to be the ones who call each other out in a very public way, to remind ourselves that when you sign up to do this civic duty, you first and foremost sign up to upkeep the trust of the people who elect you to deliver on your job. We talked a lot about auditing dollars at the city at every level. I believe that we have to hold ourselves accountable to ensure that every single dollar that is spent on a city service, on homelessness, on the police, on firefighters, can be accounted for in a public way, so we know how much is being invested and what are the outcomes, what is the impact of those dollars that are going out. And last but not least, going after those folks who are taking advantage of voter-approved dollars by exploiting the public process. We had a situation where in the paper we heard of someone who purchased a building for $11 million, and then they turned it around and tried to sell it to the city for $27 million without a real explanation other than that. To me, that spells fraud. Where we go after black and brown kids who break into stores and steal a bunch of t-shirts, and we put that front and center in the media, but we seldom go after developers and those who are committing white collar crimes or are stealing wages from our employees in the city. And those are we have to be honest with ourselves, and there are multiple ways of us holding ourselves accountable and being honest to those who are exploiting public dollars.
Right. Now, my last and my favorite question, and this is where I serve for my community, is the neighborhood councils and community voice. Neighborhood council often feels excluded from decision making. Their budget has been cut only to $25K, and that's a punishment. How would you strengthen their role and ensure early, meaningful community impact? Let's go with Jorge.
Thank you for that. I kind of in the border of several neighborhood councils. You have South Central Neighborhood Council, Zapata King, Alameda, and we need to get them more voices, more budget. There's so much need in a local level that some people may not be able to go to City Hall, but allowing more people to access the neighborhood council and access dollars is going to be a big priority to me. I think really, how do we get more participation in the neighborhood councils? I think we need to do a public service announcement to get more involvement and more participation in our neighborhood councils, and really look at their bylaws so that their voices have more teeth. Because right now it's sometimes conceptual, it's just a letter, but I feel that we need to give our neighborhood council a little more teeth in the way they govern. Because I see a lot of the great work that a lot of the groups do, individuals, and I think we need to really uplift that and provide them more resources and eliminate a lot of the red tape. If someone wants to do a community cleanup in the community, they should have access to dollars, access to getting bags or trash or get hauling fees. How can we get the neighborhood councils to really respond to the neighborhood cleans a little more faster? So to me, it's really trying to eliminate a lot of the red tape. I know a lot of the other neighborhood council people, and I know that they're passionate, but sometimes the bureaucracy of the system really bogs them down, and really just you lose the motivations, the momentum. So for me, as a council member, I'm going to be sitting down with every neighborhood council quarterly to make sure, see what they're doing, what can we work together. As a leader, I've always been inclusive and leading from behind. So I would love to set quarterly meetings with all the neighborhood councils and see what we're doing, where we can help. How can the office help? How can the city help? Again, my job to becoming the council members to make the city more accountable and more responsive. I'm not here to defend it. Thank you.
Okay, Adriana.
It is a great question because I love the neighborhood council system. I served in the Central Alameda Neighborhood Council for 6 years. That's a lot of years giving labor of love for my neighborhood. That's how dedicated I am and committed to improving my community. I started in high school as an education representative, and the reason why I love the neighborhood council system, despite being broken, is because it gives people like me from my zip code 90011, one of the most impoverished zip codes in our city, the opportunity to learn how City Hall works. And that is such an important tool to have, because you will not be able to learn how City Hall works without the system, right? And so part of the reason why the neighborhood council was established was after the 1992 uprisings, which is the year I was born. And I honor that every single day when I show up to serve my neighbors, because I want to make sure that City Hall is built with them alongside. And that's why I am proposing that we have a co-governance model where we have a say on projects being built in our community before it gets approved by City Hall. When I get elected, I will champion that. I will model how it looks like, because in our community, we have been left out, not just by the corruption in our council member that's facing right now, but also City Hall meets when people are working, and so our community doesn't have a voice right now. And the neighborhood council is also unpaid. We have a lot of people that have to work 2 to 3 jobs and go to school just to have a voice there. So that needs to change. Also, I want to make sure that we work directly with the budget advocate and works with our city controller, the CAO's office, and other departments to enhance the way in which we connect through department services. Oftentimes, neighborhood council board members, when they first join, they don't know anything about the government, right? And with all the budget cuts going on, the councils have all these goals they want to accomplish. But even right now, like the city clerk's office does not have enough staff. A lot of them are working part-time. And so I'm afraid that if we don't inject more funding into the neighborhood council system, it might, discourage people from running and for those positions, because it's going to become a burden instead of like a passion for folks. That's my experience. Serving, oftentimes we have young people who want to accomplish all these great projects, but the barriers with the red tape and the bureaucracy gets on the way. So I will make sure that's going to be one of my top priorities, co-governance model in the city. And that also is going to be through the budget, participatory budget. We need to make sure that before the city approves the city budget, that we really make the time and the effort as council representatives to create spaces where the community can shape the budget, especially because a lot of them do not know how the budget works. So if we take time to educate them and include them, we can change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
But you're right, Mihran. Neighborhood councils were created to give communities a real voice, but too often they're sidelined or ignored. I think that we do need to strengthen neighborhood councils by respecting their input early in the decision-making process and not simply after decisions are already made. Community engagement should be meaningful and not simply performative. And I'm proud to say that I will be working with the neighborhood councils on Know Your Rights trainings and civil rights and immigration issues. A number of them actually reached out to me earlier this week. I'm going to be collaborating with them on a regular basis. And I'll say this, it would be nice if they got paid as well. We need, people who live in these neighborhoods know what works and what doesn't, right? People who live in these neighborhoods know what works and what doesn't. I just had to say that again. City Hall should treat residents as partners and not simply as obstacles. And my commitment is simple. There will be no decisions, no major decisions about District 9 without District 9 at the table. Those neighborhood councils are District 9. And a community voice isn't just a box to check. It is how good policy gets made. So I'm going to be collaborating with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmar.
Yeah, I think the neighborhood council system is beautiful, and it's a mechanism for city council members to not only be informed, but to consider that they have thought partners in folks who are interested and invested in being civically involved. And one of the ways that I've seen my neighborhood council be active is by bringing people together. One, informing residents of initiatives, of programs, of key meetings that the city has that are going on. Oftentimes, residents trust the neighborhood council members more than they trust their own city council member, and it's because they have that very familiar, very personal connection to them. I do think that we have to do a better job of promoting what neighborhood councils do and recruiting folks who want to be civically engaged. I was knocking on doors this weekend, and I met this gentleman who just came home from college and was looking at ways of getting involved. And he said he was interested in connecting with the local neighborhood council. So I put him in touch with folks there. And I think that's one example of folks who want to do more for their community. But I do think that the neighborhood councils are limited in their power and their ability to activate real changes in their neighborhoods. And that means that, yes, they have a budget, they can do cleanups, they can distribute money to local nonprofits. But in my area, the neighborhood council is trying to improve a corner where a garden could be a better a benefit to their residents. Speed bumps is another thing that they're elevating as a big need, where there is literally life-threatening intersections in the neighborhoods. Or we have a resident who for months has been asking the city to fix a sidewalk that literally looks like an earthquake destroyed the entire sidewalk. And there's a person who lives at that address that is in a wheelchair, and the sidewalk isn't even safe for a person who is walking and perfectly mobile to walk on it, let alone someone with handicap restrictions. And so I believe that the best way for us to activate neighborhood councils is to bring them in, to utilize them as thought partners who are helping the office understand what is happening deep in the neighborhoods, and to also elevate solutions for us to ensure that our district is receiving the services, targeting them where they are needed the most.
Thank you. Esterado.
Yes, definitely agree in terms of the co-governance structure. I see the neighborhood council as a chance for us to be able to capture as a city more of what's happening and create more partnership amongst its leadership at the neighborhood council level. Feel like the participatory budgeting process needs to be not only at the neighborhood council level, but also bring it into like the overall budgeting process in the city of LA. I think neighborhood councils are essentially smaller city councils within the district. I belong to the Voices Neighborhood Council, where we were able to impact, very important decisions like the redistricting process, which kept the USC area within the ninth city district, which was important for our folks. And I saw the power that the neighborhood councils had through that exercise. I was there for one term, and then I had to continue doing my organizing, became a young dad, etc. It was definitely an eye-opening experience in terms of what is what are the untapped, avenues that we can address some of the social problems that we have by identifying policy that, you know, neighborhood councils can definitely help play a role in grabbing neighborhood people to come in and be a part of the policy making process. Um, so yeah, definitely, I'm a big advocate for the neighborhood council as a former member of the Voices Neighborhood Council, and experiencing that, I think that I would have organized a table of all the different neighborhood councils within the Ninth City District to sit down and have continued conversation, not just once, but like a once a month meeting of like, I guess like we already have it in South Central, right? Where we have like a table of people that come in. I wouldn't, I would be a part of that conversation because I see that as an appendix to how to create a more vibrant community engagement process for the city council and improve our political power in the city council. So yeah, I'm all for positive, enforcement of that.
Thank you. Jose?
We got to fully fund you guys again. Neighborhood councils were cut almost in half because of the city's budget. That was a big problem for especially our district, that we don't get the sufficient funds to put on events, to distribute that money back to our community. I've always said that the funding should be even higher. A lot of our neighborhood councils use their funding within the first 6 months, and then you're out. You're there. You're done. And if you don't use it, you lose it. That's a big problem too. You have 1 year to fund yourself, to fund programs and services, and if you don't use the whole money, it doesn't roll over to the next year. We, as a council office, we tell our neighborhood councils that if you do have money left over, we'll roll it over for you. That's something that we've always done. Also, Zapata King Neighborhood Council, 2014, when we came to office, and I was just a field deputy, I helped create it. It was dissolved for about 3 years, and I helped create it. I helped name it. I helped recruit people to go and be part of the neighborhood council, and it's been standing strong for over 12 years now. And it's in the central part of our district, and it holds events. It's something we got to keep. Co-governance is also something we got to talk about. I think we should do it. I think neighborhood councils are quasi city councils. When neighborhood council submits a letter support or not supporting a project, we always take that into consideration. We always should take that into consideration and vote how the people want. And they need to be expanded. I think a neighborhood council represents about 50,000 people. That's a lot of people. There's cities in the city of LA that have less than 50,000 people, and they have $1 million budgets. And we need to make more neighborhood councils to make sure that everybody has an equal voice. What I do love about neighborhood councils is that they're very active. They express themselves, and sometimes the beginning, like a lot of people said, Adriana and Jorge said, a lot of times when people want to get involved in the government, they start in the neighborhood councils, and they start. Thanks, Estuardo. Bye.
All right. My last request from each of you is your closing statement. Let's start with Elmer.
Yes, I am running to represent the district that raised me, a district that I love, especially South Central, my community. I love the people here, the culture, and the history. I love this city, even though it feels like the city doesn't always love me back. And that is a big motivator, is for folks in my community to feel loved and appreciated by this city that we are proud to call home. My experience both on the lived and the professional side comes directly from working in the communities that I've served since I was a child. At the age of 13, I joined Community Coalition and I've been organizing ever since. I understand the urgency around housing, around education, around safety issues, and economic opportunity that my district desperately needs. And I'm committed to working side by side with residents, with neighborhood councils, with nonprofit organizations, churches, and anybody who wants to join forces in creating solutions for those needs that we have in our district. And my priorities are clear. I want to create a city office that listens to the residents, that actually responds in real time to everyone that comes to the office, not just selective few, to invest in youth and education, to ensure that we have not only healthier but also safer neighborhoods, to expand access to good paying jobs with real benefits that our communities can grow and flourish from. For environmental improvements, we need more green spaces. We need more art, more recreation in this district that is so full of talent and richness. On a cultural level, I want to turn empty lots into community assets. I want to create more mixed-use developments that provide spaces for local businesses to flourish and folks to live in quality housing that they deserve. I appreciate City Watch LA for organizing this forum today. Thank you for caring about the future of our community and our city. And thank you for the chance to share my story and the work that I've dedicated my life to and will continue doing as a city council member. You can find me at elmerroldan.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you, Mihran. I'm walking in the footsteps of Gilbert Lindsay, the humble janitor who went from sweeping the floors of City Hall to becoming the first and longest serving Black city councilman in Los Angeles City history. And now, I'm the only brother who is fighting to keep that legacy alive. And the only one who is running to say that the story of Black political power in the city of Los Angeles isn't yet dead. It's not dead because I'm here. And I think that a lot of my voters are going to understand that. So feel free to check me out at www.chrismartinforcd9.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Esterado.
Yeah, I look forward to working hard, being able to get into city council and really work for the people of the Ninth City District the way I have for the past 20 years in my organizing career. Been able to rack up policy win after policy win, making sure that billions of dollars go back into the pockets of working class, poor folks in the city of LA. I think it is time to ensure that poor folks in the city of LA are truly represented in a way that really does uplift the 37% of children that are living below the federal poverty line here in the Ninth City District. We need more than zero point 0.3 acres of green space for every 1,000 people. And we need to ensure that the hardest working community in the city of Los Angeles, the folks that built the city, clean for the city, cook for the city, take care of the city's children, that host the world in our backyard, also have access to the economic output that is coming from our community. We need to share in the wealth of the city. It's far too long that our community has been left out, marginalized, and segregated out of both the political process by having folks that don't represent the community in its full interest, never lived here, and also through the economic process that has basically extracted the wealth from our neighborhood. We need to do better. And I believe that when the Ninth City District does better, the entire city does better. So thank you for your time, Mihran. I really appreciate this. Yeah, I look forward to keeping engagement, and I'll see everybody from the other side of the horseshoe.
Thank you. Jorge.
Okay, so my closing statement is, having You know, my family goes back to 1970 when my parents were 18, 19. They met here. Currently now 49, and my youngest 18 is 17 years old, and my oldest 18. So three generations here in South Central Los Angeles, where I call home. 20 years ago, when I really got radicalized and I thought about what can I do to make a difference, I utilized this big house to exercise my creativity, my way about giving back. I opened my doors to create programming. I tried ideas that worked and didn't work. I opened my doors to organizations, nonprofits, to individuals. Many of you guys have visited the big house and participated in some programs, some activity, some launch. But my purpose has always been through action. You know, you'll find me every weekend cleaning up streets because I believe that, you know, the future of our district is to keep it clean, walkable, and safe. I'm a person of action, and you could see it every day, and I demonstrate it through love and passion and commitment to my community. I don't see this as a project, but I see a future for South Los Angeles, and I want to be part of that, of shaping that. So I invite you guys to follow me on Instagram at Nuno for LA and look at my plan, look at my economic development plan for South Central LA to revitalize Central Avenue, make it an arts and culture corridor, to make it a vibrant community from inside out, really tapping into all our talent, our creativity, our young energy. I'm going to revitalize the Wetlands Park, like many of us are dreaming about, making that a centerpiece in our community by providing a technology hub, a fitness, wellness facility, technology facility, and really do some transformational work. That's the kind of commitment you have for me. So thank you for putting this together, Mihran, and we're looking forward to seeing each other in the campaign trail and making sure that we end this CD9 chapter and start a new chapter of inclusivity, community, and love. Thank you.
Jose.
Thank you, City Watch. Thank you, Mihran. Thank you, Jim, for putting this on. This is what we want to see. We want to see dialogue. We want to see different policies. We want to let people know where people stand on different issues. Everybody that's running are friends of mine. I'm the only candidate that's worked with every single one here. 2013, I met Jorge. 2012, I met Jorge. Worked with him at the big house. He has incredible space. He's done great work. Adriana recently worked on getting red cards to our immigrant communities. Elmer worked on Grand Avenue to clean up the area and get homeless people back and make sure homeless people don't break into people's homes. I even know Chris. I think I'm the only candidate that's ever met Chris before. He does live in the district. I work with them on different campaigns. And I worked with Estuardo on passing tourism wages and supporting our getting people out of jail in West Hollywood recently. But I've worked with everybody here. I think they're good policymakers. I think they're gonna do great things on the city council. But the difference is that I listen to everybody. I've answered their calls. I address the issues that are coming ahead. And I want to continue that work. So thank you, Mihran.
Thank you. Adriana.
Thank you. So I am running to represent the community that raised me because I've shown up for the last 18 years organizing to create opportunities for people in our city that have been ignored. When there was no college centers, I created support for educational pathways. And at a time when our community is being terrorized every single day right now, I stepped up to run for city council because I refuse to accept and normalize that our community is afraid to go out to walk for the park. That people in our streets are dying, their neighbors are being displaced. And the only answer to all that is that we don't have funding. The funding is there, it's just not being prioritized in the right departments. The role of the council member is simple, is to improve the quality of life in our district, and I have experience doing that. I work for the second largest civic engagement department in the United States, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. And when elected, I will prioritize co-governance, bringing our community into shaping the budget and policies that affect our lives. Oftentimes, people in our community often vote because our council member has accustomed them into getting turkeys and bikes every time that there's Christmas. And our community really needs to be invested in the policy, in looking at who's being funded through the city budget, and also having a say on what gets built. We have no say in any of that right now because of the selective cooperation that the current leadership has. They only support you when it's convenient to them, and we need to stop that. And that's the reason why I'm running, because I refuse to normalize the way of life in which we currently live and in which I was raised in. Our community deserves safety, opportunities, and care, not neglect. We deserve good paying jobs, accessible, affordable housing. We deserve city services that are rooted in wellness, that are rooted in community care. And I also encourage you all to connect with all of us on social media. My social media is Adriana for LA CD9, and my website is adrianaforla.com. I also want to thank City Watch for inviting me to participate, and also Mihran and everyone else here who took their time to create this space. I know a lot of you volunteer a lot of your time into different systems that promote civic engagement, because we want to honor the voice of everyone in our city. And so thank you for taking your time to ensure that our district can hear from all of us today. Thank you.
That concludes tonight's District 9 Candidate Forum on the Bottom Line Show. I want to thank all the candidates for participating and sharing their perspectives. The future of District 9 is on the ballot. Stay informed and make your voice heard. I am Mihran Kalaydjian. Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Thank you, Mihran. Have a good night, sir.